Oh, let's start from the beginning. About 3 months ago, I picked up a Z-back, and I also got what we believe to be a Tekken cab. Well, it turned out to be a working Tekken 2 version C, but as you can see, the monitor had a few issues. Despite my best efforts to clean up the monitor and make the most optimal adjustments possible to get a good picture, there was clearly something wrong with the chassis itself. So I figured I might as well go ahead and get the thing out and get it cleaned up. This was my first time having to discharge a CRT on my own, and Stringer Films actually helped walk me through it. I wouldn't recommend doing it this way just because I'm not an expert by any means. Once I had the whole monitor out, I just sprayed the entire thing down with simple green, like doused it, and then rinsed it all off. And it did a surprisingly good job, and everything was very clean. As some of you may have seen in my latest update video, I was lucky enough for Retro Ralph to help me out with this chassis, who some of you might know, who happens to live in Arizona.
Hey guys!
And I'm just waiting for it to get back to me. Which was great because in the meantime, I had a ton of things that I had to weed through, like fixing wiring problems and figuring out why in the heck there was an alarm, an actual alarm, run off a separate battery installed in this cabinet. And to make matters worse, there was even a dead rat in the cabinet. Yes, it must have been living in there for quite some time. And it looked like things didn't work out all that great for him. So after a good cleaning, a fresh coat of paint, new T-molding, new button, and a fresh marquee print, well, I had to figure out how to get the PCB protector off. I mean, this thing was heavy duty. Like, it makes me think this cabinet might have been in a prison at some point. But once I got that taken care of, it allowed me to clean up the PCB that was in there, and I had ordered a Soul Edge version 2 PCB and a Tekken 1 PCB. So with that out of the way, now I can run those 3 System 11 PCBs in this cabinet. Meanwhile, Ralph was working on the chassis.
If you're new to doing this, when you get the cap kit, the cool thing is the cap kit, most of them all come with instructions. So you really can't mess it up. I mean, you do have to be familiar and comfortable with a couple things. A soldering iron. I use a desoldering iron. They come in really handy. So definitely would want to get one of those if you're going to do a lot of this kind of work. I cherry pick the easy ones first, that's for sure. And I will say this, just be aware that capacitors do have polarity, so you're going to want to make sure, usually on the board it will be marked negative and positive, so you know, but I always double check the board and just double check my work, because you wouldn't want to put one and reverse the polarity on it. So now the one thing I will say is, as you kind of start knocking these off, I usually just go through the sheet and sort of like block them off so I know I've already done them, and then I kind of just go through the list until I'm done. That's pretty much how I do it. Alright, well, it's hours later and I'm complete. So this is all the caps right here, they're all done. Now, this didn't go without some drama. So the flyback I was gonna replace just because I usually do that every time I do a cap kit. In this case, I removed the flyback, I cut the cables, and when I cut them, I realized that the flyback they sent me was actually the wrong flyback.
It was at this moment that he knew. He f***ed up.
So I didn't have the right one. I don't know, I asked, so I contacted She-Line and I'm like, hey, do you want me to put the old one back in? Do you want me to wait and reorder a new one? And she's like, nah, let's just go for it. So I put it back in, I fixed the wiring that I had, and then because my Sinistar cockpit
Retro Ralph. Wake up, Ralph.
has a the same chassis, I just basically swapped it into that and it works just fine. So it looks good, you know, it needs probably a little, you know, she'll have to adjust the colors and stuff, but I tested it here, it works. So I'm sending it back off to you, and you're on your own from here.
So with a quick turnaround time, he sent it back to me. And boy, was I excited to get this. But one of the first things I noticed was this really bad ding in the box. But I did the only thing I could do and went ahead and started unboxing it. And it was then that it all made sense. FedEx had dropped the package right where the flyback was sitting in the box. They broke it. Fortunately, Ralph had an extra and he was gracious enough to send it to me so I could just send him that one back. So once again, the package quickly showed up at my door, and the only thing I was worried about this time was the neck board, and you'll see why in just a second. She's always looking at me like I owe her money or something. What is it? What is it? You smell Ralph on there?
Nice and good.
Whoa, what a weirdo. Well, let's find out what happened with the chassis. All right, so I just got my second chassis back from Retro Ralph. So let's get it installed on this thing and see how it looks. I'm scared. And it is right here where I realized with great joy that it worked. Thank goodness, what a relief. All right, so this neck board was broken and Ralph repaired it. It's actually really sensitive. Like if you touch it, it'll flop a little bit. Here's everything. I've got to adjust the monitor still, but let's check it out. Have messed with it a little bit, but it's a really good picture. I just have to make some color adjustments to it. So we have the new chassis installed, and as we come down here, here are the two PCBs I have in here right now, both System 11, that's Tekken 2 version C, or in parentheses version B, C. And then there's Soul Edge version 2. Gross looking stuff over there, but it's all bleached and simple grained. So everything's cleaned up and it is fully operational. I still have to mount my Tekken 1 board in here, but I did get to test the Soul Edge board and it works great. But let's go ahead and check out the cab and some gameplay. As you can see up close, the screen looks fantastic. Now, there is a little bit of burn-in on the tube, but it's nothing terrible. Especially when the game is running, you really don't see it. I'd really like to thank Ralph for all of his help on this, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video.